Mizrahi Jews, why do you call yourself Mizrahi?
Oh, this is gonna be good. An Arab telling Jews how they should identify. Let's see what you have to say.
It was the Ashkenazi Jews coming from Europe who called Arab Jews or Jews from Arab countries Mizrahi, Eastern.
Of course, it was the evil white Jews that imposed this identity on us. Edot HaMizrach, or the communities of the East, has been used as a term in the Jewish world for centuries.
Eastern as opposed to the normal Jew, which is the European white Jew.
No, as opposed to the Maghrebi Jews, the Western Jews, who spent the diaspora in North Africa. In fact, in the Ashkenazi sphere of the diaspora, the term Mizrahim was used to describe Eastern European Jews, as opposed to Western European Jews.
They called you Mizrahi to also strip you from your Arab identity.
What Arab identity are you talking about? My grandparents, among approximately 1 million Jews from Arab lands, were kicked out because they were Jewish, because they were not Arab, after over a millennia of being subjected to Arabs.
You existed in the Levant and you are native to the Levant as much as any other Arab.
Yeah, let me correct you on that. We're not just as native as you are to the Levant. We are more native than you. Arabs are not native to the Levant. That's a conversation for another video, though.
So you have these Europeans coming to your land.
We have Jews returning to their indigenous homeland, our brothers and sisters.
Coming to your region and calling you those of the East.
It's not that deep. They didn't invent the term Mizrahim to, downgrade Jews of the Middle East. Sure, some people may have used this term derogatively, but it's not a derogative term. So what exactly are you trying to do with this video?
We have to find another term for you.
Ah, there it is. Your Highness, please tell us how we should identify.
My suggestion is that you reclaim your Arab identity and you go back to your roots.
Your suggestion is that we adopt a term that's never been used historically by Jews of the Middle East, just because now it fits your narrative that Israel shouldn't even exist. This is top colonialist mindset. There's no other way to put it. Jews spoke Arabic in the Middle East and North Africa due to Arab colonialism. We call these countries Arab countries due to Arab colonialism. Jews lived in Eretz Israel, what you call Palestine, in Syria, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Egypt, in Morocco, long before these countries were considered Arab or spoke Arabic. We predate your colonialist made-up narratives. Hope this helps.
Welcome to another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. I am your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to, of course, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, leave your comments. Follow me at Rafi the Realtor on Instagram, as well as the Soothing Semantics page. Rafi the Realtor for all of your real estate needs in South Florida. Check out my weekly newsletter, and I would love to help you with the real estate in South Florida. Of course, also buy me a coffee, link in the description. It would really be awesome to show your love and support. This week we have Adel Cohen. He is another Heb, another Yid, and I've followed him for quite some time. And recently he put out this amazing reel, that just really I got so hyped from it. It was so good, man.
What was it?
The one with what's his name? What's that guy's name? That Palestinian guy.
Sharif.
Yeah. What's his last name? Here here. The video is
Sharif
right here.
Safadi.
Yeah, Sharif Safadi. Yeah. So there's this guy Sharif Safadi. I mean, once this episode is out, man, I'm putting that clip before my intro video. So what normally I do is whoever my guest is, I try to find some content that they've posted or they've made or anything about them that's really juicy. And that's usually anywhere from like 30 seconds to like a minute or so. Then my intro video starts and then the actual episode starts. So that I'm already putting that in the beginning because I thought it was so awesome.
I love
So,
juicy.
oh my God, dude, it was so good. So basically Sharif goes on this tirade about how Mizrahi Jews are Arabs and Ashkenazim brought them all of these issues with racism, which there wasn't perfect. Wasn't perfect. We can discuss that briefly. But now, for the most part, compared to other countries, I would say that our unity between Mizrahi and Ashkenazi is kind of. I don't think anyone really cares about it all that much. For the most part, it's you know. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm not sitting here and saying it's perfect like any other country, but I think it's
Nothing is perfect, but
yeah,
it's not nearly as terrible as people, who
like
hate
to say
us
it is.
try to make it out to be.
Mm. So, anywho, it was amazing. Whoever got to this part already saw it because it's going to be posted. So, now to introduce you, you are an Israeli advocate, content creator. You graduated from Tel Aviv University, you said,
Yeah.
with a bachelor's in. You said a bachelor's or a master's? Forget, pardon me.
Yeah, bachelor's in political science and Middle East
Middle
history.
East, right? So obviously you're quite well versed in the Middle East, and that's going to be the topic of conversation today. And to start, the war is causing a lot of challenge with how we're perceived in the international community. We're doing well on the ground, fighting. I would say it's 8 fronts now, but the pressure is mounting on Israel in terms of stopping this war. A lot of left-wing Jews in the United States, for example, and in Israel are I think they have a very hard time dealing with that pressure, and they kind of just want everything to stop so they don't have to feel like they're associated with what they see as an evil country or a warmongering country. I don't think you see it that way at all. I surely don't. I really can see through all the noise. But what's your take on that? Because it's causing a lot of divide.
I think it's natural that Jews worldwide feel pressure right now that like the war has been going on for almost 2 years. Obviously, we're all in this terrible, terrible situation. It's basically a nightmare that we got stuck in. And obviously, we all want the war to be over. We all want to be, back to our normal lives. But I think it's also important to look at reality in the eyes and, realize that we need to do what needs to be done. We need to get the hostages back, whether it's, through operational methods or through a deal. That's the whole debate now. I'm torn between the two myself. Like if I'm gonna be honest, and we need to eliminate Hamas as a threat so it doesn't pose a threat of another October 7th happening anytime in the future. So when I see Jews, whether it's Israelis or Jews in the diaspora, who can't deal with this pressure, it honestly makes me sad. I can't say that I judge them. I used to judge. I used to judge a lot more, but I think after almost 2 years of war now, uh, I start to understand where these people are coming from. But I think it's very important for all Jews to be, regardless of what happens, to be proud of who they are, to be proud of being Jewish, to be proud of being connected to Israel. And especially in the diaspora, I see it with a lot of Jews who either live a very comfortable life in the diaspora, or they don't really want to be associated with Israel. They are the ones that cave into the pressure much more. We all have a duty to be connected with who we are, be connected with our Jewish identity, with our Jewish community, with our history in our indigenous homeland in Israel. And the more we connect, the more connected we are, the harder it is for all of those who put pressure on us to break us. And vice versa. The more disconnected we are from who or from what being Jewish means, the easier it is to cave into the pressure, to stray into the anti-Zionist movement. Unfortunately, we have a lot of these folks as well, among our people who simply caved in and completely gave up on their connection to Israel.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They also have Mr. Jacob Berger. I'm sure you've heard of that guy.
Oh my God, yeah. I haven't only heard of him. I got to interact with him a few times, obviously, on social media.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
the anti-Zionist Jewish superstar that all the pro-Palestinians love to tokenize. Although now recently he kind of canceled himself when the pro-Palestinians you can't be too Jewish for them. And even if you're Jacob Berger, at some point it's going to be too much for the pro-Palestinians. I think history taught us very well
Well,
that it doesn't matter how much you cater to the anti-Semites. The last Jews that were sent to the gas chambers still died in the gas chambers. That's basically, the way I see it.
Well, what do you mean by can't be too Jewish? Because he doesn't seem to really put any sort of pride in his Jewishness. He kind of just throws it away. So
That's the thing. That's the thing. Him just being Jewish,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if he's connected to Israel or not. It doesn't matter if he is Zionist or not. He's Jewish. At some point, they're gonna get to him, and they did.
A lot of them, when they're sitting and having discussions with each other, they go, what a bum." Like
I'm 100% sure. Like
they're just like, what a
it's like it's
sellout.
the
They're
perfect
like,
it's
what
the
a
perfect
sellout.
token for them. Yeah.
Yeah, what a sellout loser. It's perfect for us. It's great, but I bet so many of the men, especially, are like, could you imagine? It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to this war in let's focus on Gaza. Let's zoom in on Gaza, for example. We have two main goals, like you mentioned in the beginning of the episode. You mentioned the hostages, freeing the hostages, and making sure Hamas has no capability to attack us, that they're finished. Now, I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to ideology because we have Islamic Jihad, we have plenty of other factions. We have is it the Salafis, I believe, or Wahhab? I confuse Wahhabis and Salafis, but anyway, we have more than two terrorist groups in Gaza, just like we have more
Yeah.
than two terrorist groups in Judea and Samaria. So I think it comes down to religious ideology. Hamas is just a side effect. So let's say we're focusing on getting this done right now. What should Israel do in order to get rid of Hamas? Meaning, should they take over Gaza and control it? Should they let some other country rule it? Meaning, what should be the ultimate goal there?
I'm gonna be completely honest and say and admit that I I have no idea. I have no idea what's the solution for Gaza. Even before the war, to me, Gaza was kind of like a hot potato that you can't really do anything with it as long as Hamas exists and controls it. What I do know for a fact is that every time Israel gave up on lands for peace and gave the reins to the Palestinians, nothing good came out of it. Even, after Oslo, a lot of people talk about the PLO and the Palestinian Authority, how they're the moderate partner for peace. They might look at things differently, but the Palestinian Authority is just as anti-Semitic as Hamas. It's in their charter, the Palestinian National Charter of Independence. I'm not talking about the Hamas charter. I'm talking about the PLO's charter. It's talking
Mhm.
about how Palestine, all of Palestine, is part of the greater Arab world, and they regard Jews as foreigners.
Mhm.
Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, still pays monthly stipends to families of terrorists and terrorists that kill Jews. or tried to kill Jews. It goes by how successful was your terror attack. That's how much money you're gonna get. That's according to Palestinian Authority law. It has nothing to do with Hamas. And then we have Hamas that look at it from the more Islamist point of view, where they're using the Islamic texts to justify annihilating the Jewish people. And it's not new. A lot of people say, well, the conflict has begun. I'm talking about anti-Zionists. They say Hamas was created because of the Israeli occupation, quote unquote. But that's true, okay? The Hamas was created after, right? After the Israeli occupation. But the ideology itself is something that
It's funny also, I just want to
came
quickly
down
say that
from like generations before. Yeah.
sorry, no, I don't mean to interrupt. Hold your thought. I was just saying that if anyone was listening to this and not watching it, when you said Israeli occupation, you put up your hands in quotation marks.
Oh yeah.
But
It's important
yeah,
to note.
yeah, I'm just mentioning.
I
Okay, yeah.
mean, I fully believe in Israel's right to exist from the river to the sea. That's
Yeah, no, I
important.
know that. I just people listening might be like, what? Okay, yeah, but
Yeah.
continue. Yeah, continue what you're saying.
So it is true that Hamas was created after you know after Israel was established, but the ideology that drives Hamas is way older. It goes all the way back to Hajj al-Husseini. It goes back to the Muslim Brotherhood that started in early 20th century in Egypt and kind of took over the Islamic world. Unfortunately, a lot of countries in the Muslim world, in the Arab world, are now, you know, forgot the word for it, um, ousting the Muslim Brotherhood from their countries because they know how much damage and destruction this radical perception of Islam brings to their society. But Hamas has remained one of the only strongholds of the Muslim Brotherhood in the Middle East right now. The Muslim Brotherhood, they don't exist in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, in Kuwait. They only exist in Qatar, which are nowadays the patron of the Muslim Brotherhood in Arab countries, and it exists in Gaza under Hamas. I'm kind of rambling. I forgot what was the question.
Well, the question ultimately was, what are we supposed to do? You said you don't
Yeah,
know, but you gave a whole answer. I mean, I have my
yeah,
thoughts. I have my thoughts, and obviously, I'm curious. So,
yeah. So
you said,
basically, that's the way I see reality. As long as Hamas is still in control, as long as Palestinians are in control of the Gaza Strip, it will continue going on. And, vice versa. Everywhere Israel has established sovereignty, and that's another topic up for debate among a lot of Israelis and Jews. Everywhere Jews settled at the end of the day in the land of Israel. I'm not talking just about Judea and Samaria, I'm talking about Israel proper. There was way more place for peace to grow rather than terror and hate.
yeah, I mean, I think I think there's a spirituality to it that people don't really want to come to terms with, in that this is much more of a religious war than it is a land dispute, and I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. Like I've heard multiple Palestinians say it in interviews and speeches and in conversation. They've admitted it very clearly. They know it better than we do. A lot of Israelis, especially on the left, they just don't accept it because they think religion is so silly altogether.
Yeah,
That they
I
they
think there's a
see
lot of misunderstanding how much religion plays a role in Arab and Islamic societies. It's a big thing.
I mean, it's the primary driver for a lot of their decision making. So the Palestinian cause, it's much more of a Muslim cause, and Palestinianism became a thing only after Israel became a state. You know this guy, Mohammed Darwish or Mahmoud Darwish.
Yeah,
The guy,
the
okay, have you
poet.
seen that famous clip? He's talking to this young Jewish girl. It was all over social media for a little while.
تعلمين لماذا نحن الفلسطينيين مشهورون؟ لأنكم أنتم أعداؤنا. إن الاهتمام بنا نابع من الاهتمام بالمسألة اليهودية. نعم، الاهتمام بك وليس بي أنا. إذن نحن قليلو الحظ في أن تكون إسرائيل هي عدونا، لأنها تحظى بمؤيدين لا حد لهم في العالم، ونحن أيضا محظوظون لأن تكون إسرائيل عدونا، لأن اليهود هم مركز اهتمام العالم. لذلك ألحقتم بنا الهزيمة وأعطيتمونا الشهرة. لقد ألحقتم بنا الهزيمة ولكن منحتمونا الشهرة.
אנחנו שר התעמולה שלכם.
نعم، أنتم وزارة دعايتنا، لأن العالم يهتم بكم أكثر مما يهتم بنا، وليست لدي أي أوهام حول هذا الأمر.
I'll send it to you. But
I
anyway,
have,
he's talking to her about how until the Jews came back in mass, I mean, there were always Jews there, but until the state was established, Palestinians were irrelevant to the world. Nobody cared about them. They didn't have any relevancy. He said, the only reason we have any relevance on planet Earth is because of the Jews, because of the world's fascination with the Jewish people.
I agree with that. I think that the world's attention throughout history is
Mhm.
always gravitating towards where the Jews are. If they're in the diaspora, it's the attention is there. If it's in Israel, the attention is there. And yeah, like the Palestinian identity as we know it today was not a thing before Israel was established. The Palestinian identity, the national identity as a whole, is a reaction to the return of the Jewish people back to
100%.
their homeland, the return of Jewish sovereignty over the land of Israel. Yeah.
I have one more thought, and then I want to give you. I want to put the focus on the guest here. Uh, an even deeper thought is that I think the world is so up in arms about Jews having a clear, decisive victory over Gaza, and even potentially annexing Gaza and the West Bank and making the entire country Israel, is because as long as there's a Palestinian quote unquote resistance, it means that Israel cannot, let's say, build a third temple and bring prophecy to fruition, and the Jewish story can't actually be true. There are, especially in the Muslim world, they don't want this Jewish prophecy to come to fruition. And so, as long as there's resistance against it, as long as there's Islamic fundamentalists who are fighting that chance of Jewish prophecy, that's a good thing because they believe that Islamic prophecy is the true prophecy. And I think that's the deeper thing that goes over a lot of people's heads that I think is the case. And that's why Jews have been killed over and over and over and over and over and over and over throughout the diaspora before 1948, is because much of the world, Christians and Muslims alike, were saying, well, if we kill all the Jews, then there won't be any of them to bring their version of the prophecy, because what if it's true? What if their version's true and everything we know is a lie? But if we get rid of them, then we got a better shot. It's not one out of three. It's not a one at it's not a third of a chance. It becomes a 50% chance. You get me?
Yeah.
And it's religious not religious replacement theology, I think, is the cause for almost all of the violence between the three religions since the beginning. I think
It is. But I think it's also there's kind of like a paradox that any Christian or Muslim that believes that all Jews should be killed kind of like goes against their prophecies. They don't want our prophecy to come true, but their prophecies can't come true if the Jewish people don't exist.
Right.
We are the basis for their entire belief system. There wouldn't have been Christianity or Islam if it wasn't for the Israelite prophets in ancient times that spread the word of one God to and the times of Geulah, of redemption, to the rest of the world.
But maybe they're scared that we're getting too close to our prophecy. Maybe with the Muslims, for example, Christians have largely reformed, but much of Islamic society still hasn't reformed. They take the Quran at face value. They don't, there's no nuance. They take it, this is what it
Yeah.
says, this is what I'm doing. And so I think maybe a lot of them are saying, well, there's enough Jewish prophecy. I think if we keep letting it go any further, they're going to end up destroying Al-Aqsa and building a temple. We have to stop them now before it's too late. Smotrich and Ben Gvir and all these other fanatics, so to speak, are trying to get this third temple built. We need to stop it right now. And I think that, does it make any sense? Do you think there's any, because I see it on Middle East
It
Eye,
makes sense. It makes
see
sense
it on Arab News.
for people who, yeah, it makes sense for people who don't understand, I think, the deeper part that Jews play in the world. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of Christians and Muslims do not understand that. You said it is true that Christians, mostly reformed and are no longer the main source of anti-Semitism in this world, but the Muslim prophecies are also dependent on the existence of Jews and the return of Jews to their homeland. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding going on for most people in the world.
So break it down for us a little bit in terms of everything you just said, in terms of prophecy, the need, the foundation of Jews in the Muslim and Christian story. Like, give us a little, I guess, a little more context.
The Quran itself is talking about how at the end of the days, or closer to the end of the days, Jews will come back from all over the world. It says, I don't remember the exact verse, by heart, but it says that the Jews, or Bani Israel, the children of Israel, will return from exile all together, like lafifa. In Arabic, they say lafifa, meaning all together into the land of Israel. It is part of the Quran. It's just part of the Quran that, unfortunately, with the generations, got interpreted differently. Now, I don't claim to be an Islamic scholar or interpreter of the Quran, but the people who lead the consensus in the Muslim world are the scholars who interpret the Quran, and they interpreted it in a way that goes against the Jews returning to their homeland. This is why you hear a lot of Muslims say nowadays, you're not Bani Israel. The Jews nowadays who live in Israel are not Bani Israel of the Bible, of the Tanakh. Because the Quran talks about Bani Israel. It talks about the Israelites that came out of Egypt with Prophet Moses, and came to Israel, the promised land. There's no way around it. It's the Israelites. They just believe, or were led to believe, that there was a loss of connection, and we popped up at some point in history and claimed to be these Israelites, but we're actually not. We're imposters.
Isn't it so easy? You can just remove an entire narrative by just believing in such nonsense. Like, all of the Jews were gone. They forgot who they were killed, whatever. They're gone in the dustbin of history. Suddenly, a few 100,000 of them just suddenly popped up out of nowhere and said, "Hey, we're back. We're
Yeah,
new and
as if
we're new and
we stopped
improved."
existing.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
I could see how you can really try to attempt to do that with Ashkenazim, but to try to do that with, for example, Jews of your background, Temanim, Yemenite Jews,
Yeah.
that's a real stretch. Like for you to
They
try
say
to
the same thing. They say that I'm not actually Israelite. I'm not Jewish.
you
I'm an
convert,
Arab. I'm a descendant of Arabs that converted.
right?
They have the equivalent of the Khazar theory, but for
Right.
Yemenite Jews, it definitely exists in
It's
these
crazy.
circles.
They do that to all of us. They do that to every single Jew. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, man, when we were in Europe, they killed us for not being European. When we go to back to Israel, they tell us we're European to go back to Europe. So it's like,
Yeah.
when you're in the Arab world, you're not Arab enough, and you're killed for being a Musawi or a Dhimmi or whatever. And then you go back to Israel, they tell you to go back to Arabia. It's like
Yeah.
the reality
And
is they
not
just
just
want.
to go back to Arabia, they're saying, oh, you need to reconnect with your Arab roots, and
Yeah.
forget about what the white Zionists brainwashed you about. That's what they're saying. That's what Sharif Safadi said in that video.
Just
That
wants you
was
to get
so
lost.
incredibly ridiculous.
Well, he's really what he's really saying is just leave. Just figure out a way to make sense of you not being here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Um, so when it comes to all of this, I have a right-wing take. I am not a left-wing guy. Like I definitely support Bibi overall. I'm not going to sit here and say he's perfect, but I would do a lot of what he's doing, pretty much all of it. Like in terms of I think it's taking way too long. It's very complex. The guy's got an incredibly difficult job. I think humans like to do. It's like when you go to a Beitar game and you have a guy spitting Garenim yelling at the players for every single thing they do wrong. Meanwhile, this guy couldn't kick us. The guy barely is
Yeah.
flexible enough to kick anything, right? But this is what humans do, right? So I'm not saying there shouldn't be the ability to criticize a leader. I'm glad that we have a country like Israel where you can criticize Bibi. What I think though is that at the end of the day, if we ever want to see any kind of peace, Gaza is going to have to be completely annexed. I don't think that the Gazans should be citizens because we have to have a Jewish majority. It's a requirement. We can't risk being a minority or in close to a minority in our own country. And if the Gazans want to stay there, I think they should have some sort of local governance, but Israel should effectively still rule it. It should be part of Israel. They could have residency, maybe like an Emirates kind of plan, like Mordechai Kedar suggests.
Yeah, Mordechai Kidal.
I had him on my show. I think he's very, very bright and
Amazing. That's
understands
very
this better than
impressive.
almost anybody. Yeah, I had a debate with him, an Egyptian American and a Palestinian American, and I think we killed it. I mean, we knocked it out of the
Wow.
park because he knows all
Send
the.
it to me later. I'd like to see it.
I'll send it to you. I loved it. I mean, unfortunately, some of the audio, pardon for some of the audio on, especially one of the other guys, it wasn't so great, but you'll be able to make it through. It'll be fine. So, I mean, they can't get anything past him. Like Dr. Kadar is like a religious goalie, like a religious in America we call in soccer, right? In football, we call the guy who, you know that, right? The goalie. He's like a religious goalie. Every time they tried to kick the soccer ball of Islam past him, he was like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, that's not true. I know this, that's that. And he got them every time. Like they couldn't get anything past him. So reality is, if we want the Arab world to respect that it's a Jewish country, we have to act like it. We have to act like it, or they'll never respect it. And we're very afraid. The world is coming down heavy on Israel now for Bibi saying that he's planning to take over Gaza City. We should have done this a long time ago.
That's the thing I think with the world. We live in a reality nowadays. Back like in the past it wasn't like this, but nowadays we live in a reality where um everything that is kind of like written in international law and kind of like dictated, especially by Western powers,
Mm.
that's what should happen no matter what. But then
Right.
you get situations like, Gaza, right? The Western world doesn't see it as part of Israel. Israel said, okay, we give Gaza away. We release
Relin-
control of Gaza over to the Palestinians, and then comes up a modern day Nazi-like party that uses Islam to justify murdering Jews. A party, an organization that believes God gave them the right, not just gave them the right, commanded them to annihilate the Jewish people. And now they're indoctrinating Gazan youth for 2 generations already, that's the truth. So how is that moral? How is that more moral than Israel having control over Gaza? The same thing, you can say the same thing with Syria happening nowadays. You have the Druze community in southern Syria, and no Western leader is able to admit that the right thing to do would be to release, to free, to liberate the Druze community from an Islamist dictatorship
Mhm.
that massacres them. No
So
one admits that.
does liberate mean that Israel should rule that part, should rule like Soweto and take them in?
I think I think
I'm
it's
totally in support of that, by the way. Totally down for that.
I'm in support of what the Druze community in Syria want. Now, a lot of them did express their will to be annexed to Israel.
Mhm.
Morally thinking, it would be a lot better for them to be part of Israel than part of Syria, especially under an Islamist regime. Because if we look at where Druze live in the Middle East, it's Lebanon, Syria, Israel, and a tiny bit of Jordan. Where are
Right.
they best at? Where
In
where do
Israel,
they
without a
have
doubt.
equal rights? Where are they an equal part of
Not
society?
even it's not even
Only Israel.
close. It's not even close. It's such a like it's so extremely opposite.
Yeah. So if we're talking about morality, right? All these countries, all these Western leaders that are criticizing us for, not being moral enough, for not caring about human rights enough, they're willing to lock the Druze community under a dictatorship that seeks to destroy them, just for the sake of maintaining the world order, or like what they are considering moral.
Right. No, I think Syria is a different story. And if the Druze wanted to be part of Israel, I would be in total support of that. But I think more
I
so
agree.
the main focus should be on Israel's security. And moreover, like I said, I think it's just with Judea and Samaria as well. Judea and Samaria has to be annexed. This whole area, let's be very pragmatic here. This whole area A, B, and C thing, that's not a long-term viable solution. It's a shit status quo that we're hoping it's a decision that was made because there was no better solution. There was no better idea at the time. And it's shit. It's a shit idea. The whole concept, it's a wild what the West Bank is, what Judea and Samaria is, it's a Jewish and Arab wild west. It's let's hope we don't die today.
I
Let's
use
see. Let's
the exact same term. A lot of people just don't understand what's going on there. It's literally the Wild West. You
Yeah,
have
that's where I
groups of
serve.
Palestinians, groups of Jews, just claiming hills one
Yep.
at a time, clashing with each other. There's just total chaos, and it's chaos that we caused. Not just we. I'm saying everyone who took part in the Oslo Accords, Israel, the
Yeah, no,
U.S., anyone the Palestinian Authority.
I said this by the way. I'm sure you know Tal Oren, the traveling clat. I'm sure you've heard of
Yeah,
him.
of course, good
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah, so I had him on my show 3 times, twice on Zoom, once in person. It was the one we did in person was the third one a few months ago. I just posted some reels with him on his page, and I was talking about how the Oslo Accords was a bad idea. I said, I'm not saying that I'm happy that Rabin was assassinated. I don't wish assassination well, I wish assassination on Nasrallah and Sinwar and some others. But I didn't wish assassination on Rabin, but it happened. And I think that for whatever, I'm not God, I can't tell you what the bigger plan of the world is, but I think it would have been a disaster if Oslo went through. Because for the same reasons, two states is a disaster. It's not. I just don't understand why people don't see that. And I think,
because
well,
they've never been there.
no. There's because I would say there's a lot of Israeli, like liberal Israelis, who believe in this nonsense, and I think it's
Because
because,
they've also not spent enough time there, I think.
or that's very possible, but there are a lot of these liberal Israelis in that walk around the West Bank and film. I hate calling them settlers, but let's
Yeah,
for the sake, just so people understand what I'm saying. Settlers and soldiers, they film them all the time. They even start issues with them.
yeah.
Uh,
Provocateurs.
right. The truth is two staters, I believe, for the most part, are looking at this conflict from a very quote unquote logical, non-religious lens. They think that why can't we just share it? Why don't we just create two states? You have one, I have one, and that's it. Why can't we why can't we just share the cookie? You want a cookie, I want a cookie, we just share the cookie. Right? And from a logical standpoint, it makes so much sense. It's like, why don't we share it? I'll give you half, you take half, I take half, great. Because it's a spiritual war. And moreover, you when it comes to land, especially a country like this, it is very difficult to just go 50-50 on something. But because it's a religious war, you are not going to convince Muslims to split it, and you are not going to convince Jews to split it. Now, funny enough, the Jewish side was a lot more willing to do it, and I think that's a big mistake because from the Muslim side, the Muslims are in a way a lot more transparent about what they want. They're like, well, listen, Jews, if you actually believe it's yours, why the hell would you give me half of it?
Yeah. It's
Pretty stupid.
it reminds me, and it's not my idea, by the way. I got it from a good friend named Inon Dan Kehati. Maybe you'd like to interview him
I
once.
already did. I think I told you.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, okay.
He was
So
the guest right before you.
yeah, okay, that's amazing. He's
Yeah.
he's great. We've been friends for a long time, and he when we were introduced to each other, he talked about the um, the story of King Solomon, who two mothers brought a baby to him and said and fought over the baby, and they asked him to decide who's the real mother. And he told them, you know, why don't you cut the baby in half and then split
Yeah.
it? And the mother that, that said, let's cut it. She was not the real mother. Obviously,
Right.
the mother who was willing to save her baby's life, that's the real mother. And that's the way I see it. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of Jews nowadays and Israelis as well, they don't see the importance of Judea and Samaria to us, to the Jewish people. Because for them, they don't need Shechem, they don't need Hebron, they don't need, Bethlehem, all these places. Sure, maybe there's like some tombs of very, very famous and important Jews over there, but it's okay. Like we can give it up if it means we get peace. When in reality, it sends the exact opposite message. It sends the other side the message that we don't care about this land. We don't care about the tomb of Joseph. I think in a more spiritual, subliminal sense, or like subconscious sense, the reason the tomb of Joseph keeps getting vandalized almost every few years, they either burn it, they throw garbage in it. There were a few years where it was used as a urinal. The reason they keep doing it is because they see that the state of Israel doesn't care. We gave up control over the tomb of Joseph to the Palestinian Authority, and now they can do whatever they want with it because they can see that, we don't really care about it. But in reality, or like what reality should be, is that we see all these places and as not just physical places, but places with, the spirit of the Jewish people, of the nation of Israel, all throughout history. These places hold such memories. They hold our entire national memory, cultural memory in them. In Shechem, this is where we first entered the land of Israel. This is where Joshua gathered all the tribes and, kind of renewed the covenant. Hebron, where our ancestors, our forefathers and foremothers are buried. We cannot give that up, because if we give that up, what right do we have over Jerusalem? What right do we have over Tel Aviv?
Right.
Over the Galilee?
Right. It's so simple, but we can't get it. Like the problem is that too many Jews have this European lens. They think through a European lens of, oh, let's negotiate, let's try to sit down and have a conversation. In the Middle East, it's like, if you think it belongs to you, prove it, act like it. Stop dilly-dallying, stop bullshitting us. You said it's yours? You came after 2,000 years, you fought for it, you won? What are you giving it back to me for?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
the,
exactly
the
what we
funny
did
thing
with the
is the
Temple
Arabs are
Mount.
like, conquer me. If you don't conquer me, I'm going to conquer you. So what's it going to be? Is it me or is it going to be you? There's like a brutal raw truth I think we love running away from, and it's like the Arab world is like, we're not going to agree to just give you what you want. Put us in a position where we have no choice but to respect you. It's not to say that we need to be these brutal, horrible people. You just when you believe in something, make the decisions that show very clearly that you actually do. Talk is very cheap. Oh, it's the Jewish country, it's the Jewish. But if you're not putting those things into practice, if you're not actually showing the world, and especially the Muslim world, that you're willing to do the things necessary to prove it, they're not going to take you very seriously. They're going to think you're a joke.
And I think we
I
saw we saw an uptick in that mentality over the Arab Palestinian side back in 2021 with the Temple Mount. I mentioned how we, back in 67 when we conquered the Temple Mount, right? The holiest place, the Mecca of the Jewish people. We conquered it back from Jordan, and immediately we gave it away back to the Jordanian Waqf.
dumbest
And
mistake.
what do we get from that? It was one of the most terrible mistakes we've made in the history of the state of Israel. What did we get from that? We got lack of freedom of religion in our holiest site, a site that is supposed to be open for all religions. In Judaism, we believe that the Temple Mount, third temple that will be rebuilt when Mashiach comes, it will be a house of prayer for all nations to come and worship, the one God. What do we have now? We have apartheid on the Temple Mount. We have, Muslims are free to enter wherever they want, and Jews are getting crumbs. Sometimes, we're allowed to pray, and only when we're escorted by police, and only in certain hours, and only from one tiny gate in the back of the Temple Mount. And Christians as well. Christians are not free to enter the Temple Mount either. And not just that, back in 2021 and 2022, Palestinian anarchists, terrorists, I don't know, however you want to call it, used the Temple Mount, used the Al-Aqsa Mosque as a launch pad for attacks against police, for attacks against, worshippers.
Yep.
That's what we get when we give up what is ours, what is rightfully ours.
Yep. And it's a hard decision. That's why a lot of people can't handle the things Smotrich and Ben Gvir say, but You know, as much as the Arabs like to call them bad and evil and whatnot, I can guarantee you, especially the deeply religious ones, like the Hamas kind of Palestinians, respect them a lot more than they respect somebody like Jacob Berger. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. They might not admit it to you, they might keep it to themselves, but at the end of the day, who is more likely? Can you imagine if Jacob Berger was the prime minister of Israel? We wouldn't have a country. We'd be done for.
We wouldn't have Israel. It wouldn't have been Israel.
I mean, it would have, the flag of Palestine would be over Jerusalem. We'd either be expelled by now. I'm telling you, if after October 7th he was put into the prime minister's office, it'd be over. It'd be done. He
It
wouldn't be
would be the
living.
last Jewish prime.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. But he'd be so shocked though. He'd be like, I don't get it. I I wanted to support the Palestinian cause. Why? What happened? You know?
Yeah.
It's
That, by the way,
paradoxical
that's
because
what
you
he's
think
saying right now. Now that the Palestinians are kind of like lashing out against him on social media, he's like, but I just wanted to support you guys. But yeah, and then you have prominent Palestinian figures like Nardin Kiswani, who's like, you know what? We don't give a shit.
we don't give a shit because you're a phony. That's why they don't give a shit because they know like it's very funny. I've been doing this podcast for over 4 years, Adiel, and like I say these things and I speak in the same way I do in all my episodes, and I I've gotten along very well with either Palestinians or Arabs, even though what I say is very direct. They know that there's a massive truth behind what I say, and they can't really argue it, man. They can't really argue it. Sometimes they're just taken aback by
Yeah,
how willing I am to say it to their face, but it actually produces much more of an opportunity for peace because they're like, he keeps it real. He understands what we understand. Like they can't BS me. It's very easy to BS somebody that doesn't understand what I understand or you understand. It's very easy to just
yeah,
bullshit us, talk around us, play chess, manipulate. Can't do that if
I agree. Before the war, I used to speak to a lot of Palestinians, especially with Inon, with Abide.
Mhm.
And it was always very, very dugri, very straight to the face, all the truth in your face. And I had the most meaningful conversations I've ever had with Palestinians were when
Mhm.
we spoke like that, when we spoke, from our truth, from our from our hearts, what I truly believe in,
Mhm.
and not apologetically.
I like that. I'll be honest with you, man. I actually very much vibe with that kind of energy. Like, for example, I don't care if somebody hates. I don't need, let's say a guy Mahmoud from Hebron, right, from Al Khalil, as they say. I don't give a shit if he likes me or not. But if he understands what the deal is, like if he gets what's going on, okay, hate me. You're not going to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
might as well be friends. We might as well. Well, that shit. Why can't we be friends? Oh, well, you said it. It's like it's a Jewish state. You have a problem with it? Yeah, you have a problem with it. Okay, so let's solve it then. If you don't, if you're willing to come to terms with it, we can be great friends. I think there's so much room to get along with each other if we just stop bullshitting. If we just stop BSing, man.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it also creates like way more honest solutions.
Hmm.
Even if we're not talking about like the big solution to the conflict, I'm not the one to say what's the solution to the entire conflict, but whenever I speak to Palestinians, um, truthfully and unapologetically, and I tell them, I think Israel should remain a Jewish state. I believe in a Jewish state from the river to the sea. I don't believe that all Palestinians should be expelled. No, I believe in your right to exist here, but we need to talk about how we do it in a way that doesn't endanger us, in a way that enables us to fulfill our purpose in this world. And I also believe that Palestinians serve a certain purpose in this world. I don't think a lot of people say, oh, then what do you think should be done? Like all of them should be kicked out? No, I don't think all Palestinians should be kicked out. I think, non-Jews have always lived in the land of Israel, even in ancient times when it was under the kingdoms
Right.
of Israel and Judah. We know there were different tribes that were not Jewish, were not part of the nation of Israel. They still lived there as part of society and took part in the Israelite society. We can definitely build something like that in modern times as well. It's not unfeasible.
Right. I think just back then the Jews were not we didn't have purple-haired
Yeah.
Haaretz Jews. Like we just there was no room for that. Maybe I'm not gonna say there wasn't. Maybe there still was an element of liberalism even then. I think human nature is human nature. So maybe even then there was a component of it, but it probably looked nothing like it does now.
Yeah,
We
and
didn't
we
have the
definitely didn't
luxury.
have an entire anti-Semitic establishment, worldwide establishment to answer to, when we made our decisions.
100%.
That's the world we live in right now. I'm not saying, abolish the world order, but like that's the world order, and we need to acknowledge that it has its benefits and it has its downside.
Mhm. But I think we have to ignore the noise as much as possible. When I say ignore the noise, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't focus on being moral and doing the right thing, but the war's got to end. Meaning the war has to end decisively. It cannot end in pulling out of Gaza permanently and letting everything go back to the way it was. And no matter how many countries want us to do that, even if 90% of the international community thinks that that's the right idea, it's not. Only if we have 5% of the world support, we have to do it. We have to do it. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
So what do you have any finishing thoughts? Anything that you wanted to bring up that
I think, if there's something that like I want the viewers to go out of this session with is, we live in very, very difficult times right now. And I see it with a lot of my other activist friends, people who work in the field, people who don't work in the field, but, are just part of the Jewish people and are affected by what's going on. There's a lot of despair and frustration going on right now, and a lot of people don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I wholeheartedly believe that when this whole thing is over, and I believe that it will happen soon, we will start a new era of renaissance in Israel and for the Jewish people. And I truly hope that it's going to be for the entire Jewish people. I hope that October 7th changed us for the better in that sense, to make everyone realize, all the Jewish people around the world realize that we are part of the same collective, we are part of the same nation, and what happens in Israel affects the diaspora, what happens in the diaspora affects Israel. Our experiences are intertwined, and I hope that the entire Jewish people takes part in this new era of Renaissance, and hopefully we'll see Israel, coming back to life, and not just life, but livelihood. We are lively people. We maintain our happiness and our joy wherever and whenever, even during tough times. But obviously, the war is a burden. The hostages are, like a big component of, the sorrow that the Israeli society has now. But we will come back to our livelihood. Be'ezrat Hashem, the Abraham Accords will be expanded. It will bring a lot of, new things and new opportunities for Israel and for the Jewish people. And I just want people to remain positive and optimistic for this new upcoming era of renaissance.
Beautifully said. I agree. I agree completely. I think once the dust settles, and hopefully Israel does accomplish the goal of annexing Gaza and Judea and Samaria. God, I hope that happens. I hope that's the ultimate goal. I hope there can be peace between both sides, and I also think that this this generation is going to be, like you said, a renaissance is a good way to put it. I think, you compare the Israeli youth, military-aged men and women to military-aged men and women in the US, for example. It's night and day difference. Then
Yeah.
war is unfortunate. War is unfortunate, but when you have 18 to 22, 23-year-old men and women that do their job, take it very seriously, they take the responsibility of protecting the country on their shoulders, that's going to create an incredibly resilient and capable generation. I think you're going to have so much entrepreneurship, so much innovation. Dude, I think Israel is gonna do so well in the coming 10 years, 15 years, just because of this
That's all the shame.
this like
I see it as well.
toughness. Yeah, oh my God, I think it's gonna be great. Bennett spoke about it, Naftali Bennett spoke about it on more than one interview recently. But I think it's just so true. And some that's it's war is a tragedy, but there are darkness has its purpose in this world, unfortunately, like in a weird way, because resilience breeds that strength. You
Yeah,
can't build that resilience when things are always easy. Um, and so it just depends on how you allow that to define you. Kind of like
right. What do you
walking,
make of it?
yeah, like walking through the storm instead of running away from it, you know?
I agree.
Yes,
We've
sir.
been really good at it for the past
Yeah,
2000.
I agree. I agree. Adiel, it has been a pleasure, my brother. Thank you so much for joining. I had an amazing conversation. I look forward to doing it again at some point. Definitely would be awesome to meet in the near future. Hope we can either I'll come to
I
Israel or
would
you
love
come
that. Are you
to
based in Miami?
yeah,
All right. I'll keep in
yeah,
touch.
for sure, absolutely. I speaking of Judea and Samaria, the most of my family lives there. They live in the Shtachim. So hold on, I lost you again. Can you hear me?
Nice. So you know,
So I what?
oh damn. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm saying,
See,
so you know what it means.
yep, yep, indeed. Okay, guys, make sure to subscribe, like, share, leave your comments. Follow me, Rafi the Realtor. Follow Adiel at hold on 1 second. You are Adiel of Israel or Adel Cohen. Did I lose you? Are you still there? Shit, where'd he go? All right. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the best internet. So follow him at Adiel of Israel, and I will see you on the next episode. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description, and I would greatly appreciate any support toward the growth of this channel. If you'd like to promote your business, nonprofit, or any other organization, you can do so by getting in contact with me via Instagram DM, cell phone number, or any other mode of contact. Until next time, thanks so much.